most of you here. Our family's maybe a little bigger than Cassie's. But I did get to know, I met some of Cassie's family last year, got to know them, which was great. Sorry. This wind. Sorry about the wind. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Lance McAdams. I'm Brett's oldest brother. I'm an ordained minister of the American Marriage Ministries. The internet says so.
No.
This wind is really messing with my gig here. So does this colorful certificate. It's right here, it's official. So. Brett and Cassie have asked me to officiate their wedding today, which is a real honor. So as my first official act as an internet ordained wedding minister, I want to officially welcome all of you here. Before we begin, there's a few housekeeping items to take care of. First of all, I want to introduce the wedding coordinators, Lindsay and her assistant, Emma. You see them here? They have name tags on, and if you get lost in the lodge or anything like that, you know where to point you. I'm going to thank the guitarist providing the music during the ceremony today, Brad Keys. And finally, we do have a professional photographer who will be taking photos of the ceremony during the ceremony. So relax, smile or cry, maybe pretend to laugh at some of my jokes, and just look good for the camera. Her name is Kirsten Jones. All right. Finally, if you can take your phones out and make sure that your ringtones are turned off. We don't want the Macarena or something like that playing during the vows, so if you can turn the ringers off, that would be helpful. Or if everyone's already left their phones somewhere else. Everyone all set? Okay, good. Let's begin. Will everyone please stand for the procession? Finally here. Don't these two look great? We can do better than that.
Oh no.
Oh my.
This is famous bullhorn that Russ McAdams used to take to all the cross-country meets. So let's do that one more time. We are here today to celebrate an event. You can all sit down, please. We're all here to celebrate an event that's been over 2 years in the making. The story that I'm about to tell is probably a mostly true story. Cassie remembers the exact date that they first met. It was February 14th, 2014, on a Tuesday. It was her second day at her new job. Sorry, 2016. 2017. I knew it was 2017. They're correcting me up here. It was 2017, and it was a Tuesday. Brett remembers that it was sometime in the winter before he and I drove up to Whistler in Canada to go on an epic snowboarding trip. And we drove up in my sweet van. Yes, I have a van that I sometimes live in, and sometimes I park it down by a river. Cassie had just been hired as a manager at a rehabilitation treatment center for boys with drug and behavioral problems. And just to be clear, Brett was an employee at the facility, one of the patients there. Cassie remembers that he came up and introduced herself. And she remembers thinking that he was, and I quote, a hottie. She especially dug his long, crazy, curly blonde hair, and also his blue eyes, and that he was tall and thin and fit. Of course, Brett, and all the other guys, let's be honest, all noticed the new hottie manager with the long blonde hair and big blue eyes who was tall and thin and fit. Brett remembers wanting to ask her out early on, but since she was his boss, he was worried that it would be seen as inappropriate. Cassie thought Brett was nice and all, and says, I would have flirted more with him if I wasn't his boss. And in fact, she tried to set him up with some of her friends, apparently, but Brett said they weren't his type. So, mostly true? Okay. So they chatted at work now and then, but they kept it 100% professional until one day they went on their first date. Cassie remembers the date as that it was March 11th, 2017, on a Saturday. Brett remembers it was sometime in the winter after he and I drove up to Whistler, Canada in my sweet van to go on an epic snowboarding trip. As it turns out, on the day of Brett and Cassie's first date, she had already been on a date with another guy who she met up at Snow Basin in order to go snowboarding on a day date. Brett was also at Snow Basin that day working, and both groups, Brett and the boys and Cassie and this other guy, crossed paths on the slopes, and they exchanged some pleasantries. Undeterred by seeing her with another man, Brett texted her and asked her to go out for dinner after he finished with work that day. How much of this am I getting right? Okay, all right. You're giving me this look like, I know. Okay. Cassie was, again, worried about going out in Ogden and possibly being seen with Brett. Not that she would be embarrassed to be seen with this guy, but they were worried about being seen by their coworkers. So Brett suggested they meet up in Salt Lake City. I was away for work, so Brett was staying at my condo there. They met up and walked downtown and had dinner. Brett remembers being so impressed by her. Obviously, he thought she was beautiful. But she was so smart and organized, motivated, goal-oriented. She's already gone and gotten a master's. And she also rode a motorcycle, which he thought was really hot. Cassie remembers that he was funny and charming and really animated. And he had big white teeth that flashed every time he smiled or laughed, which he did a lot. And that curly, crazy blonde hair. They returned to the condo and talked some more, and when it was getting late, Brett walked her out to her car. Cassie remembers that he held her hand on the way, which she thought was really sweet. Brett recalls that he had a really great time, but he had no intention of trying to kiss Cassie. He didn't want to move too fast because he really liked her. Cassie said it was not her style to kiss on the first date, but... Now, the little kids, you can cover your ears if you don't want to hear this part. They were standing there, saying goodbye. Cassie looked at him and asked, Brett, can you keep a secret? Brett said, sure. And Cassie kissed him.
Secret's out.
Brett knew right away that this woman was different and told her so at that time. He said, look, I want to date you. I don't want this to just be a fling. After another 2 or 3 weeks of dating, he told her that he wanted to be exclusive and not date anyone else. I think the old folks call that going steady. Cassie was a little hesitant at first, but because she thought it was a little too fast. But then she had a conversation with her mom, who asked her, is there anyone else you're dating? No. Anyone else you want to be dating? No. Then you should go for it. You like this guy, and you're going to ruin something good. And it's a good thing that Cassie listened to her mother, because here we are now. We're now going to have Beck McAdams come up and do a reading.
From Instructions for Life in the New Millennium by the 14th Dalai Lama. Take into account that great love and great achievements involve great risk, and that a loving atmosphere in your home is the foundation for your life. Be gentle with the earth, be gentle with one another. When disagreements come, remember always to protect the spirit of your union. When you realize you've made a mistake, take immediate steps to correct it. Remember that the best relationship is one in which your love for each other exceeds your need for each other. So love yourselves, love one another, love all that is your life together, and all else will follow.
Dad, Mom,
Thanks, Beck.
what? Mom, what?
So this is the point where I maybe try to give the new couple some advice. Irony is defined as happening in the opposite way to what is expected and typically causing wry amusement because of this. It can often be funny, but it is also used in tragedies. And I know I've been told many times that it's a little ironic that a guy who's never been married is giving wedding advice. So I did ask some friends and family for some advice. Most of it was pretty terrible. The advice that Russ McAdams gave when I asked them was, he said that I have to feed your mom hash browns to make her happy. I hesitate to even dare to understand the depths and workings, the complex machinations of the mind of Russ McAdams. But if I were to try, I think that what he meant to say by this is